Fake messaging, failed strategy. That's the focus of tonight's Angle. Every American hearing Democrats prattle on about how illegal immigrants are cherished members of our community and about how we have to do more to protect their rights, they need to watch the remarks of the mother of Rachel Warren, who came to the White House briefing room today to share what happened to her 37-year-old daughter at the hands of an illegal alien from El Salvador.
There's a 6-inch square in the back of her head where the skull is shattered the way that you would crush an eggshell in pieces. 3/4 of her brain hemorrhaged. Her right and left side of her face bashed in. Her beautiful face bashed in. Her head bashed in. Broken bones, fractures. He takes and he drags her some more. There wasn't 1 inch of her body that didn't have some kind of injury. She had a fractured rib, fractured nose, fractured skull, and then he takes her into the tunnel and he picks her up. He throws her against the wall. Blood is gushing from her head. Her hair is soaked in blood, and they showed us pictures of her body against the wall, outlined. The blood outlined her body, and you could see where the blood ran down around her as he was raping her.
If you weren't moved by that, and all of you who are parents or grandparents out there, imagine that pain. Over the past, 20 years or so, we've had a heated debate in this country about immigration, both legal and illegal. And the question really has been, should the government, our government, focus on helping Americans struggling in a globalized economy and helping keep them safe, or should it do more to cater to the open borders radicals and the ultra-wealthy who think we can never have enough migrant labor? Americans in the last election chose Trump's path, America first, with a real deportation force. But the Democrats, they're digging their heels in. Remember, once upon a time, they actually believed in borders. But now, well, they're doing everything in their power to keep as many illegals here as possible. And we're seeing their grand strategy play out, one that they hope will turn one of the most powerful issues for Trump, which is immigration, against both him and his party. Now, this left-wing effort is well organized and it's well funded. And it's carried out by a myriad Democrat officials and their allies across politics, nonprofits, law firms, and, yes, the media. First, it starts with the narrative building, the storytelling, the messaging. Now, the backdrop here is that Trump literally told voters he was going to deport as many illegals as possible. And he won on that platform. But now everything his administration does to fulfill that promise gets the most damning spin. Remember, illegals are never simply taken into custody.
He was effectively disappeared to a foreign country.
A man who's charged with no crime, convicted of no crime, and who was illegally abducted.
U.S. citizens and immigrants alike are being disappeared off the street by men in vans with no uniform.
ICE personnel are never enforcement officials carrying out lawful deportation orders.
It's almost Gestapo-like when you see folks coming up in masks and just grabbing people off the streets and throwing them in a van.
These Gestapo tactics aren't happening in a foreign country, not in a bygone era. They are happening right here in the United States today.
And of course, dictators, being dictators, they don't care about creating a national crisis.
Right now, Donald Trump is defying a unanimous order by the Supreme Court to bring Kilmore back home. And I think that in of itself is a constitutional crisis.
We're approaching the point where the judge, if he wants to move forward with this contempt, is going to have a hard time even enforcing it. It makes for a real crisis.
It is a constitutional crisis because the administration is under a court order to return this wrongfully deported man.
this wrongfully deported man. Now, this is all part of the messaging to program. It's real programming a dutiful press. And then, of course, to affect public opinion and move the polls so that eventually they can reopen the border. And then we can get the massive flow of humanity into the United States going again. That is their ultimate goal here. But remember, none of this narrative building, none of it, would be possible without an array of well-funded lawyers and nonprofit allies. And they raise millions, and I'm talking tens of millions of dollars, from open border zealots and others dependent on illegal labor. These organizations include groups like United We Dream, Immigrant Legal Resource Center, and the National Immigration Project. And they're ready to rush to any camera or any court to help illegals get benefits, get protection from deportation, and even to file plaintiff's actions, if you can believe it. The group CASA and CASA Legal, that's one of the biggest and most active pro-illegal immigrant groups out there. Their website outlines its mission this way: we will organize, 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 and resist. We will stand united in fighting against the harmful policies that threaten to burden working families for the next 4 years. They raised more than $21 million last year alone, 63% from foundations, and believe it or not, from government grants. Yes, I looked at their financials. And by the way, that money goes to pay the salary of lawyers like this.
The government has made all sorts of wild allegations about Kilmer being a member of MS-13. There has been not a single piece of evidence that has been filed in court.
And, oh, yeah, well, we're going to get into that in a moment. And along with the well-choreographed messaging and the assistance from big legal, the immigration crusaders also create the veneer of popular support through rallies and online petitions. And they're about as organic as using Roundup on your weeds.
A father, a son, a brother who has dedicated himself to make our family's American dream reality.
Okay. Well, we know what she really thinks, because a few years back, the wife of that individual was actually petitioning the court for a protective order. She's kind of changed her mind on that now, saying she was a victim of domestic abuse and she just wanted to be on the safe side. But look, these people aren't just, what you have to understand about this, they're not just arguing for this individual to be returned to the United States. They're arguing for benefits. They're arguing for in-state tuition. They're arguing for, all sorts of benefits and other things that American citizens get. That's what all these groups end up doing. And when they do that, the goal is what? To convince you that illegal aliens are just the same as American citizens. They deserve all the rights. Look, they want them to vote. But back to the media. Most of the press hasn't dwelled on the inconvenient facts here, whether it's that the wife of this individual actually, essentially was accusing him of perhaps domestic abuse, or that MS-13 was obviously the individual in El Salvador was a member of. They don't want to tackle those inconvenient facts because that doesn't go with their narrative. So the process of setting this all up as a national concern has 3 steps, and the groups involved are the usual suspects. We're always going to follow the money because the money talks. But J.D. Vance sums this situation up perfectly, saying when the media and the far left obsess over an MS-13 gang member and demand that he be returned to the United States for a 3rd deportation hearing, what they're really saying is they want the vast majority of illegal aliens to stay here permanently. That is the truth, and that is the angle.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.